The reason why a lot of the conservatives in the alternative media don't focus on Russia and what they're doing with Ukraine is because they focus on the socialist EU and they despise it because they're taking people's rights away. They've been encroaching on people for years. They've tried this form of socialism and globalism, and they're connected to the United Nations and the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization. And we've got some of the worst socialist leaders in the world part of the EU, and they're big pushers of it, like Keir Starmer, Emmanuel Macron, Kaja Kallas, etc., the leader of Spain as well. And conservatives look at that and they despise it, so they don't focus on Russia. They either don't care or they've been deluded into supporting Russia. Do you see where people are coming from with that, and where they don't see much difference between Russia and the EU and all of its connections? Can you understand why people maybe have a deluded view on this?
Well, that's a complicated question. First, I'll mention what the defector Anatoly Golitsyn said about this. And it's in his book New Lies for Old, where he predicted the collapse of the Soviet Union, and he predicted it would be fake. It would be a controlled liberalization.
Mm,
In 1984, this book was published. It was written before then. He predicted the advent of Gorbachev. He predicted the Communist Party would give up power in the Soviet Union. He predicted the Berlin Wall would go down. Uh, and what he said is he said the Russians are going to try to split Europe from America because Europe is social democratic and Americans they're they don't like social democracy. They're not left of center. America is right of center. And so if they can get America to really have a bad taste in its mouth about social democracy, but Golitsyn made the point that social democracy, whatever its flaws, they hate Moscow. They do not want to be communist. They don't want to be under Moscow or communists of China. Now, they may be confused in their ideology about having socialism, which is problematic, but they're important allies for stopping Moscow and Beijing. And you cannot allow the Russians to divide you. And here Golitsyn was very smart. Now I'll say something else about leftists and even communists in the West, especially American communists. Not all of them. Um, they have this dreamy notion of what socialism and communism is, and when they actually see it, as you have with the defectors like Whittaker Chambers and Elizabeth Bentley, when you actually see what it does to people, they leave it. They turn against it. Um, and it's not an easy choice because this has been their whole world. And then there's another aspect to it. Bill Clinton, who was working for a KGB front peace operation during the Vietnam War when he was a Rhodes Scholar in England. A lot of people thought, oh, he's got to be an agent of Moscow. He went behind the Iron Curtain to Prague and Moscow in late 1969, early 1970. He's got all these communist friends. He's connected to the Institute for Policy Studies, which was a KGB think tank planted here in America. He picked a lot of his people from there. And they think, a lot of us were really afraid how Clinton would do. Well, when Clinton was basically practically being blackmailed by Boris Yeltsin had a meeting with Clinton, face-to-face meeting of uh, in December of 1999, and it was their last meeting, and it was in Istanbul, Turkey. And Boris Yeltsin said, after he started accusing Clinton of allowing America to move closer to ballistic missile defense, Clinton was making these excuses, and he says, Bill, I still believe in you, but you have to do one thing. You have to give Europe to Russia. Now, this was declassified it's in the Clinton
mm.
archive. It was declassified in 2018.
Recent
Go to
shows.
there's all of the transcripts of Clinton's meetings with Yeltsin. Those transcripts you can download them online. They're all online. Go to the last one at the Clinton library online. You can download it. It's right there in black and white. And I cannot even, to read it. I've put it on my blog point by point. It's just, I've read it, dozens of times, and it just blows my mind. Basically Boris Yeltsin was dictating to Clinton saying, you have to give Europe to us. And Clinton saying, I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. They don't want to be given to you. Clinton's trying to explain. So the problem with a lot of these leftists, the problem they have is I think they got compromised early on. Moscow expected them to come through for the revolution, but they're Westerners. They're not Russians. They don't want to hand over the West to Russia, and they're like a deer caught in the headlines, like headlights. It's like we didn't sign up for this. We didn't know this was what it was going to be. So I think the left is in shock throughout Europe and in the United States, and why you see some of them violently against Russia. Some of them are pretending to be against Russia, and they're still in Russians' pay. I think it's hard to tell the difference, but many of them they don't want to do this. So we've got allies on the left, people who we might have thought were enemies were with the communists who realize, oh my gosh, these people want to own the world and they want us to hand over Europe, which is going to do what? America would be next. So I give Bill Clinton some credit there, and so this is a complicated issue because people get they're idealistic, they become believers in this new religion of socialism, and they do some things that aren't too smart early on in their careers, or they get corrupted by money or whatever. But controlling people, even if they're an agent of yours and they don't want to do something, it's like herding cats. So the Russians and the Chinese, though they've infiltrated the West, they can't bring it home because all these people don't want to die. They don't want to be on their knees, right?
So you're saying that the Russians have had a lot of influence in the socialist system that the EU has built up to where they are similar in some ways to Russia and not in the good way, but these countries they still want to support Ukraine and they won't give in to Russian aggression and they still want to oppose them militarily because even though they've been influenced by Russia, they don't want to be a part of Russia. They would rather be communists on their own.
Yeah, there's a problem with the whole Russian theory of subversion, taking people over with subversion, is that they didn't really think through how it was going to actually work at the end. It's sort of like you get a guy to go dig a hole with a shovel, and you get him to climb in it, and then you ask him to hand you the shovel, and you tell him to lie down in it, right? Is this guy, and then you start putting dirt over him. Is he just going to lay there as you pull dirt out? No, he's going to stand up. See, the Russians didn't figure this is that, wait a minute, we've got you to lie down in a hole you dug, and now we're pouring dirt on you, and you're objecting now? Bill,
Mm,
Bill, Bill, I still believe in you. I just need you to lie down there and take the dirt in your face because I got to cover you up with this dirt. We will bury you, as Khrushchev said. The thing is that people, when it comes down to it, and they wake up and they realize what it really is, they realize they don't want it. And the Russians, who you can see how they would get so comfortable, the amount of nonsense they put over on us. We believe in global warming. We believe the CIA killed Kennedy. We believe the Soviet Union collapsed. We believe Gorbachev's this warm liberal. We believe Yeltsin's this wonderful drunken Boris. No, they fooled us. And then when people open their eyes, the Russians are shocked. It's like, no, close your eyes. Go back to sleep. Why are you waking up?
mm,
But people are going to wake up. That's why wars happen. People wake up and they go, "Oh, we're going to fight over this. We're not going to let this happen."
mm. So
And it doesn't mean the left agrees with the right in the West. It just means they don't want to be under Russia any more than we do.
right. So, as far as the people of the EU, even though they are getting screwed over badly by these authoritarian socialist idiots, with what's happening with the farmers, it's sad. With the online safety bill, with the censorship, with the mass migration, it's really, really, really sad. Even though this is going on, the people should be aware of the dangers that Russia and China present. It is the greater threat to them.
Well, if Russia and China start this war, you're going to have billions of people die. Billions because of the way they wage war, and it will collapse the world economy, and hundreds of millions of people will start starving immediately. You knock out the power in a country like the United States, and according to some of the studies, 90% of the people are going to be dead within a year from not having electricity. Look at what they're trying to do to the Ukrainians. They're trying to take the electricity down in Ukraine, knowing that modern people cannot live without electricity. They depend on it too much. What is going to happen to the population of Kiev? If they take the electricity down for that city permanently. So this is really, I mean, this is evil, the way they wage war. They have no chivalry, they have no honor, they kidnap children, as you pointed out. They have these gulags, they work people to death. This is evil. It's a very plain, obvious evil that people need to stand up against. And it's funny, they had such a control over the left, and they kind of exposed their bare teeth. It's sort of like, Goldilocks, not Goldilocks, what is it? Little Riding Hood, and the wolf dresses up as her grandmother. And my, what big teeth you have! I think the people that noticed this were on the left because they were closest to the Russians being manipulated, and they go, "Wait a minute, this is a wolf in grandma's clothing. These are big sharp teeth." And meanwhile, these right wing, alt right or whatever podcasters, some of them I believe we're going to find out are being paid by the Russians. They are all obsessed with attacking the Western left, not noticing grandma's big shiny teeth, saying, "Oh no, grandma's great. Grandma's on our side." And it's like, no, you're, it's a fractured fairy tale. But